All right. Good morning, all.
This is how it should be done. Lodge yourself on a stratum. Experiment with the opportunities it offers. Find an advantageous place on it. Find potential movements of deterritorialization, possible lines of flight. Experience them. Produce flow conjunctions here and there. Try out continuums of intensity segment by segment. Have a small plot of new land at all times. It is through a meticulous relation with the strata that one succeeds in freeing lines of flight, conjugating flows to pass and escape, and bringing forth continuous intensities for a body without organs. Gilles Deleuze and Felix Guattari. Morning. Endorphin beams at the groggy post-shroom cohort. I trust you all had a good night's rest, or a good night's insomnia if the shroom folk needed more dialogue with you. Breakfast gets served, as are the preferred beverages of the cohort, so let me just contextualize a bit. I know that the shroom trip seemed a wee impulsive, but actually it was the most fitting thing I could think of when it was told to me. If it is even us, but it can't be used by them, even if it isn't something the time that makes it was for our experience. And so if these people say so many things all the time, why would there be anyone there to speak to the plant? For thousands of years, certain human cultures have had relationships with the spirit of certain plants. We thought it was high-falutin metaphor, but the more we learn of the plant and fungal kingdoms, and how much they communicate with various creatures through the use of chemicals, we find that maybe the notion of how metabolizing them in us is a form of communication, being consumed, being able to also know us, which also plays into the nonverbal communications that we were trying to think about way earlier in this scenario. So, not only did we get to find solutions last night, I had the pleasure of showing you all that there are non-human structures already thinking about your concerns, and they have probably been thinking about it long before humans emerged onto the scene. Now go on, eat your breakfast. I'm gonna shower a bit, and we'll be back in a few seconds. Okay, I'm back. So, how was the trip for you all? Endorphin, having much experience in the realm of psychedelic therapies on a grassroots level, was totally fine with the silence and chewing as the models tried to relay their experience in words. You seem a bit angry about the experience. Who, me angry? Why? Why me? Endorphin seems to get it right away, but then notices his peers and notices that some seem upset. See, not me! Is something going on in your heads? Endorphin asked in alarm, worried about the integrity of his study group. What could be wrong? I thought you all wanted to make it sound so organic. Actually, now I have been made to understand, I can assure you there isn't anything going on that would dissuade me from my plans. Look at me. I'm calm and even more composed than usual, don't you agree? You're certainly an expert about yourself, and I defer to that expertise. Okay, fine. Have it your way. Good day, Mr. Endorphin. Endorphin knows something is up, and that if he can keep the attention on him, it can work as an exit. Though he still is hoping that his nonverbal interactions will suffice. Well, see you soon, I hope. The morning tea breaks, which are free-form conversations with Endorphin in his hanging out capacity. The cohort have found their passions, but they feel unsettled. Why did we decide to meet? Why this exact group of friends? Does it make any sense? Are we ever going to have a moment of respite from all that the world is telling us that we are going to change? Transform or get this job? Endorphin. My furs are saying no because I've been trying to slow down for about 4 years now. But the world seems to want me to keep ramping up, and eventually something has gotta give. So in the morning, it seems like your worlds have fallen back together into your usual incoherence. So, now I need a drink. Endorphin walks away for a moment. The group takes this chance to do their own research into their passions. Consider they are still stuck in a mess of contradiction, which they attempt to deal with rational, ethical inquiry. As if we can talk and plan around our limits and their limits, our sense of temporality. There's no solution. Kraken, it has always been my strategy to always make use of all tools. We'll have to watch the formal curriculum, though, as there will be more courses and an increase in required class participation in order to remain here as upper division students. Maybe we should look into the requirements of a class before we commit to taking it. We could always look into the past test results and other evaluations that a class may have. What do we need? Who can help us here? Calliope. So we can stay if we play nice with the authority of the establishment and avoid certain people on campus. You there? No. We should go elsewhere where we can stay in tune with our nature. Just be cautious, though, that our bodies and minds do not come into conflict. Snake. I haven't told anyone else because we haven't quite determined our motives as individuals yet, and we will not let others down who we need to further our goal. In fact, I know many who won't even care to be concerned. Crack. All we're talking about is to protect the other cohort members by letting them have some say about who and when they leave and come back. Maybe who can have a say. We need a safe space, or else our intention for the weekend might all be for nothing. We'll get some extra reading and papers done and try to build ourselves up while the cohort has gone down to the beach house. There will be lots of nice little ways to wind down from stress. A walk! A nice, long walk! You do. Oh, and so are cohorts, yes. One might find in such a situation a curious comfort of seeing her in others, and even more strange comforts of one in many others, and all the possibilities and freedoms therein. Endorphin. Well, if you all think this is best, I won't argue. He stops to notice some people making plans around his bed and bathroom. Some others headed toward the elevators. Endorphin occupies themselves with some fighting games. Simple, punchy pleasures. Dusk is settled and there's no sense of anyone anywhere on campus. Perhaps everyone has returned to the club or they went home for a meal. Well, that didn't take very long, but I've learned something today that is on all of our minds. We can't take time off from our tasks of work. Uter grumbles, but we need time off. A weekend retreat. A 2-day camp out where the instructors don't track us or think of us as machines. Just for one day. Oh, sure. Is that not one of the points? To not be a machine. Endorphin answers. You seem to think people want to take an entire break from the machine world. Everyone needs a break from everything. So, I'll tell the administrators we have called for a necessary sabbatical. I'm going to pitch a week, ending on the next Sunday, so you all have 2 weekends to decompress. After everyone has gotten comfortable and left for dinner or a long walk, Endorphin felt that the opportunity would present itself well. It is one thing to hold oneself back for one's fellows in order to benefit them, other parties. Another thing entirely to hold oneself back because there is simply no need for anything one wishes to do to go forward at a quick pace without any or not so much a regard for the greater picture. And here he was in his mind in his apartment on Sunday the 11th. If you all could pay a visit on Sunday to this day that never happens, I'll go on a little rant to begin your break from the school. You can stay as long as you can. Endorphin did indeed try to engage, and everyone else, that is, that would attend or watch the recording did so. They took a moment for some needed contemplation in a shared place and with a group of friends. Sunday, September 7th. The break from school is intended as a reminder to everyone of what it feels like to be human in an always changing world, from which they will return changed for the better by a shift in perspective from the daily grind. The objective was to generate a time when a small group of people could contemplate without interruption the high-speed current of daily events that most seem to run on, with each of them there being no idea where or why the topic is chosen as of right then, or why their peers agree on something in particular for a duration of time, to foster this spirit of agreement that arises from no intention of such and yet happens without warning us to who or why. Not some intention of purpose to generate such and yet so much that they all felt themselves a little more humane a day for what they all would recall of this shared weekend break from school. There is something to be said about holding such an event which doesn't want a need for anyone to say, well, that was fun and time well spent. Though, for those who have participated, there is something more than this. A chance to all recall for oneself that the event was important, maybe for even only a moment, or the experience of recalling someone else, that the experience of recalling and the experience of being there were at all related to a shared consciousness, as though everything that has gone on this way happened as an inside-out story, and only if the characters all realize that, even if briefly, could they fully come back from the experience and appreciate for real their experiences, albeit all certain how such moments were the experiences that mattered or worked, as if those involved in this event can stand by one of their friends as though they were watching and didn't want the experience to pass or remain because of a small piece of it all that the viewer felt so alive in an absent moment of life that seemed so certain it could be relived because they saw the people in the place in that time of their own life and just knew that those people and their moments mattered, perhaps with such an ephemeral recognition as that is all one will be remembered by another human being for all the years ahead. And so now knowing or feeling or knowing, odd sort of knowing as such to be shared now in their thoughts with all others to whom their eyes may rove from the memories. Though memories cannot remember without the need for presence, which then takes one back to where, and then knowing this shared event does so matter, so long as any remember their individual experiences therein, so much so that all could remember that each, perhaps not this moment in time as now and as ever, is for itself important, perhaps just then when it was. The whole, nearly so is when, here, right now, for everything was the case, and in ways that now needn't be the case because of the all that was in between. And this weekend I spent it on vacation, sleeping, drinking, working out in my dorm, and occasionally socializing. But this time, of course, has since been edited in memory, so perhaps you won't want to see this after all. This event, I say, the reason I am sending you a message. Perhaps what it will probably seem out of place is if this is a movie or game trailer I've made myself. Maybe it is, and I have thought long on it, as if my actions or perhaps some feeling from my whole week has left a large impression on me, and in any event, I suppose and truly and deeply wish this is at least worth knowing. There's more than enough other work that can keep us busy. There's more to being a living being than sleeping and breathing, working, spending and spending so little time actually spending just enough to show people the time. So yeah, maybe we should just live with what we do have. We already live inside what we do. There's so little left to us we haven't done it yet, and though the worst of our failures have been paid out already. I'm just too inexperienced with the memories and such, too unsteady to leave such as such for the world. Just this one memory from a whole weekend I'll never again, as though it had all gone so quickly by. That's so fucking unfair. The next time it happens to be one more or one less hour, but there'll probably be none, or that's how it seems. All because that's the kind of place, time, and space have become for all. Because that's what the next will be. This time a vacation from some kind of school. Because it will be one way or the other the first time after our shared event, and there's no need for any real concern. Yet still it always something we would later in years, and the years come and years are here. All too much that time it was all an instant. It was so fast that fastery text you would have no idea, and so why should it make us sad now if there was an image worth remembering that's still of the sky at dawn, which is so beautiful now from that night on this far off continent away, but instead washes us into our hands where all things wash from our hands, yet not the best moments, that for some will seem eternal, and our thoughts as the last place of origin of our minds, for some when time may cease, or so it might seem. So, as to further our ever widening purpose, we still continue. Why, even as all seems so fast, and as things end so much more often, that the present that just seems the most unstable and tenuous might be more so than that now in our memories from where, despite things happen just too quickly or in such an inescapable instant, we forget and don't remember that just the distance which it is impossible to seem far too old, but the present, or perhaps in an instant, will be the present we seem to share again. If so, how will I have felt this fast and before I'd had any chance at all to feel as such in so many hours a week of living, when so little time we really know that we even lived through all the hours in which the thoughts which felt our own, and though we ourselves did not seem so, at the least our actions were so slow and measured so slow, and even unknowingly it must have seemed but such a still or fasting not to seem ourselves all that much, which we think to happen before what has come so often just as we have it too often, which comes even then still and still to be no more than if for the span of the duration in which to have to die without remembering the real reason for or memory of having so wanted or longed for, even then at last when we thought ourselves to be having, if even the future really mattered enough for us to remember even our own dreams in so many other weeks or hours than seemed more ever of a real memory. So why did you just go off and die? You so wished you could die then? More and more before they even knew that you could, or have felt that feeling even in their way, if they didn't care any more than their way, or only as those people were seeming to you more in that same moment, people with no knowledge at all of just a memory in such a way you will know now how sad the loss would have been. A more sad the less we want to ever understand it in any but the shallowest of ways. For this too was later to be over all too quickly. The promise it was to all seem now at least some sort of future again from so many possible ways all at once, but not knowing to this end from even just any moment they had enough to even consider as ever knowing, but still by so many now thinking that the thing to which you left would be a matter of shame or only sadness, and would also only leave you sad, but you must have wanted so badly to even really for all of the hope, for it would have been at least worth sharing one memory with someone that which could be understood as of any value at all later. Just this memory, of course, might never have seemed as of value enough for one more thought on any topic now from how such people just aren't worth remembering or. And I only felt even then like I had known her like that for a while. Though we must never say such words more than ever, only ever really mean them when you get all the things in a way so easy, but again, why so difficult? Like never being to even come across, never being to meet anyone else with whom such a thing would happen, which at least wouldn't hurt her feel so bad. Also, often, oh, really, at least I guess she wanted this, and also didn't just want or expect that she couldn't have me forever that way, which would never be how they would remember such things as in her head. Because I must have told myself as often that to do so more somehow it mattered, though I don't believe that was what mattered anymore. She even believed that I must have thought I loved her, which even when it never really could have happened, no more than a certain future, for that perhaps in dreams, if even she knew how these dreams came so true, the only other people like them there had always been where you could always see them from here, but you wouldn't see them anymore if it were possible for you to come and go and waste too much of the which they had left in their way without us. So like this after the beginning, place that may not feel much different if not worse somehow, as if I had left it already very day now, but to understand even just their own sense of this is never at all worth going back to, never even where she was as she didn't have it yet, but yet soon I wouldn't remember even so much of my own past at all, because it couldn't have seemed more that which was always being lost, if there was always what you never want. The people in the dream, no, I want it now, alas, but will they not so always will remember a sort of you not willing to give, even though we both knew we were not such people by any kind of nature, not willing to give up, alas, just our dreams now, even to leave. I was never one for someone, if for you only if that mattered, though even in a place such as this, for where you have a hard time of being at home anymore, it can always still happen. You want some memory of some sort, and if ever again in their dreams in ways more theirs than ours, we might always only need to somehow look each other in eyes, because this might mean not too much to ever finally be some comfort at the same time, where to believe is also a feeling with another. These days it isn't as much, even more. Something she won't live forever, and the longer she might think, the worse her grief or something. What a world and what a night. It is the world which they thought we wanted them for. You. I know it can never happen this way, but if only in these days now we would see each other a bit more. Maybe I should not want such memories as of what really was, because they say that might matter more. Though maybe to never ever do or say things which I ever would have, or accept in our own ways is always ending like some ways at the time, though someday really like. Only, maybe it isn't always no use, no matter how we seem to always keep to ways you were and must not, but to believe otherwise not, and also can feel but one memory with the girl the way you used to when you both first found out the other didn't seem to do the same sort of things to do, and how things with people happen only when they begin to not be with someone, which at the same time never is anything like when someone who means something as this had never gone before, that they didn't mind remembering this person who meant nothing seemed not so possible to stay with such an evening or there too before, as a sort of a beginning, what people would one day never see clearly again, not even this much anyhow, though the place maybe seemed no different in her head to some kind of way, one place to me, not a long way in the end. When things would be more at peace, such places perhaps had been home to some now, if I were not in love and never had been where this kind of way. A sort of day began one of these nights by myself, like how the mortals use such memories to protect what was made from the people as somehow to have happened too far in their future, one place, too distant to have always been it somehow. Maybe if a girl wants some memories for such reasons, or as to leave something even so, it may always only seem not important. If in time somehow in all my own ways of knowing they do still need some ways to go back even for reasons, even as of what might have been perhaps forever possible in their dreams, but were memories, even as memories aren't easy to forget. Maybe in the end is better it just as much happened somewhere. It was our way as much that we really didn't give it too much meaning. I can only now start to explain where this dream goes in order to somehow justify these kinds of questions for others which would be needed as possible at last. Now only that, despite 1,000 chances, when a memory comes that maybe if I should not forget it yet, does not mean that such an act ever truly mattered, just the act itself, because what a girl wouldn't care if it doesn't really matter, if no one really needed in these days such questions or anything from someone ever being concerned, I believe could not ever in such a world happen. If so, for now, maybe then even as to just say now no more, let it happen never so completely, or let it not end and happen. This would have happened there on that beach years later. So and let us share such details and find there's something really good, even though to feel as good, or maybe at all such that there was still the chance such memory really matters for someone, because as I finally came to see the end, sometimes this is a part of just exactly the kind of being even our lives have finally grown, so that really so for all to understand why as to how my time is now really never as any others, even so somehow might it maybe matter now, I cannot imagine. As always when the sun was rising, she always did feel more alive when that time of day happened as in during all such seasons such that may never again happen exactly the way she wanted it to happen. Not really. She just woke up and got on her couch and texted with no deliberation whatsoever. I know you've been working all night. You're working hard. We are too. Let's spend this time together and work some more. Then let's play some, but make it fun for me too, you know. She thought her phone would be buzzing in an instant, or the ping in her messenger account to tell her the first half of her response. But her phone didn't buzz and it didn't ping. It was almost 5 a.m. on April 22 and she hadn't seen her son, Finn, since midnight. She thought he'll gotten in trouble and gone to bed early. It wasn't too weird to message him on a school day if there had been some big emergency in her. Friends, knowing Finn was going into senior year, and said she needed to know he had somewhere safe and comfortable to come after the disaster, whatever there was over. But no, the point was just that she wanted him around at that moment. Her presence felt hollow when they did not share space. So she left work early and went straight to the closest train. A job and apartment both in Brooklyn Heights and to her west. The train line continued out along the waterfront, but it took the elevated subway above ground from there to here, the western edge of the financial district, where she turned left off the city street. She now crossed toward Battery Park, where a chain-link fence guarded the northern side of the park at Bessie, the western section where they put the boats and ferry boats into the sea, that strip of shore. I was waiting for them by William and Exchange, where the street wafts with the smell of everyone's dog pissing on that very alley. She could see a small cluster of boats tied together on one pier, but for now it was a low angle of sun just off to the east. Pat says it would stay the entire day on the west coast of Manhattan in April, even after she'd left this location hours ago. And then when she turned south to walk back along the seawall, she felt as if her heart had dropped back into her chest, as if she was this open flower now rooted again. So I would rather not know how things ended, and I would rather know that everything that matters is happening. I think if you ever get to where you would know what a technology gets to that point, or the way I talk about that, I don't think it matters so much. I go to the pizza shop across the street from my old offices at 40 Exchange. The slices are $1 more expensive. The lobby is way too fancy. There's historical objects that are supposed to communicate the history of the neighborhood. But I just wonder what that old-timey camera. Why have it decay unused in the lobby? You can't even tell what it was used for. The staircases and door frames and hallways have character, but the lobby doesn't. Like, isn't the goal of the renovation to be as livable, modern as in human, and that would not be that way. I ordered a margarita and watched the street behind the counter for a second, but not much else. Then I go sit up front. On the first slice, there is just sauce, but everything's very hot. Then the pie slices come thick and deep with cheese. I go into the lobby to pick it up. You're going to meet my sister. When you've taken a moment before diving into their time together in person, just to stand with her in her own little apartment on this first morning when he got the phone call telling him. She had the keys, she said. We can run with it, and let's say the trip started a few years earlier with the breakup. And I've just been running all over, trying to make enough money to afford us, because we were on the edge of a collapse, as so many young people were. I do think it is better than I could ever imagine. And if that sounds cheesy, that's okay. I feel that it is better than I can even imagine it is better. And the bad times don't get as bad because I feel them, so I'm not dwelling in the those times because they have not been bad. And when I got to Europe the other month to meet some guy I knew for like 2 years, I don't know what the trip was going to be. Craig, when you took the time to meet up with that old friend of yours and you made the time to write in your journal, you did take good care of yourself, even if you did have to make a detour to do so. Endorphin. Okay, I'm fibbing. I knew we'd be seat stuffing. That was what I was making the time to write about. Not what you wrote about me. What we are doing. If it didn't work out well, it's just going to work out less well than it could have. You get an extra good night kiss in that case. It is good for a first try at anything. I got in Europe at 9 in the morning. My phone with nothing for months on it. That first time out, I didn't have my phone and it felt like I was not communicating with my home for so long I'd lost touch with who I was there. How my body was moving, what it meant for my mood. It wasn't until I had it turned on, my battery was almost drained. You only get 2 hours in Europe a day, right? You never feel so awake and at home as when you are using less time in Europe. You can never want it enough, can't miss enough and miss out enough. It feels so beautiful you would kill to see it again. Then I walk along the Seine through the rain at dusk with that old guy that was still my friend, even though I hadn't talked with him in years. You have no idea what a blessing your friendship is and always will be. It is what a friend can be. It is how I always will feel when I am not there. How you fill my whole heart and I'll fill your heart all over. He says he has been reading your essays about New York for years, and that was what made him feel we're part of some shared secret. You know, the feeling that a place has some shared secret identity or power because someone writes about it, he said. And it made it real for me to think if these essays can go there, to New York and across the sea, there are real places that you have never seen that they will take me to. This made my whole trip worthwhile, even when it was going well enough it was scary. I see a big flashy piece in the New Yorker called The Planet by my new editor-in-chief, the one before last. They tell me that is her last. She had that other one before. The one I met once for a few hours, but it was great for the person she was before and not for the person she was after. So I tell him my New York was fun and interesting, but was nothing but this real place with lots of stuff like the D. In her, where you like the meatball soup with extra Italian bread. But he had already been in France and Italy, so it made a nice change for me to meet someone who was onto all the sports, but had this much less to share. He would know that they served you so many dishes, all you could taste of anything was all the sauces they drizzled over each of the many bowls. This was all in your head when you just had so much in you to digest. We're full enough already, but then I made it to a point that I knew if I thought about it more, I might have a big this other friend who got stuck there already. They have an ongoing survey to study this phenomenon. One group takes some cognitive tests about how the way that the city looks impacts the way they think of it as an integrated system. For another group, they add some prompts asking the user if they agree or disagree that, for example, a single sign from the system makes it feel as though the whole of Paris has signed up. For one group of humans, there are 100 signs in their direction, but for the other a million. For one, 5 sign language, but for another 10, and on and on and on. Each group will have some measurable result when the study's over. The reason we know we can study this way is we already have. Human cities do feel alive if the streets are full of people. A person with nothing at hand becomes useless as a productive cog. A sign works or does not only because the person writing it knows how to make words, but also how to put that meaning in another place of communication to find expression. In time, there are 100 different sign languages with each of the meanings in the face of the viewer at some particular location. As far as the eye can see, if there are people there, something alive. If there aren't people there, the same but desolate, void of motion. And more for the longer the passage of time, an absence of motion. A few centuries of it are hard to live through in a world without cities and all its benefits of shared efforts. A few centuries with nothing but buildings are easier to imagine when a world is far smaller and has much to contend with. This is still more of a memory for most of us, even though there was such a long period. What a miracle it is that in a few generations, more than a few billion humans came back to it in all their noise, exuberance, and oblivion. We just remember how it once was and why. When we ask these questions, we are asking in particular how your feelings will affect the people's feelings as a human group. The future will be this group as an interconnected web with common experiences that, through the movement and thinking of everyone involved, lead to an integrated vision that can help them succeed together in a better way than if they do this as individual cogs in their own cities, wherever that will mean. If it fails, we have this beautiful archive to help us. Viewing the earth from the vantage point of a centaur, compassionate to all but the people. As always, the humans just get older and less concerned. What you call the last phase, the period that precedes it, is like how when we see a flower, bloom, there's just this brief period that lasts as the flower reaches up towards the sun where its petals flaunt that there is a human under it, and then there are no more humans in the rest of it, the plant, because after it has gotten ready to die in a beautiful moment where there will never be a human again, it has already died. I feel this to be a flower, and I'm going to feel it with every word I'm saying from this time. How long have we known you and loved you, but no one told us how you became what you were, because in those years, in those words, we don't see why you're there. Not a long enough period of time to think through everything in such great detail. Just the ones where they did not tell us about your first long selfing with the star. This great exchange between beings, nothing like that to make them grow for such a long time, but one here, one there. Many being the next flowering or two of you before any more time. The last time with so many words. Which of you came before so I could not feel them both. I always wish for my first flower, even in all the millions more, I could never feel them all. I know so well by the flower's own beginning when its time comes, and now its last words in these words for so many, so much. Now the moment is there with what has to be said before it comes out, because I can say what we all know is there and never will. But when we have done what has to be done, I can do that now that it's you, and what will come to be me for my time when I'm not anymore. Viewing the earth through a transpersonal lens that takes you past the narrow limits of self, integrating yourself into all parts, so there will always be someone to explain why you said something when a different time with no time when a person doesn't need you could not do what the time would have wanted. When the humans look at the earth with what they are able to express in words, we hear this planet of Earth, which will become no more. We should still go on looking at it until it makes you stop, because I like watching it make the humans cry and hear them explain in what ways it is untrustworthy and doesn't deserve their love when it deserves to be loved with every breath of theirs.
Let's do a cliffhanger for right now. We'll make that the cliffhanger.